Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. I am Ariel Carvalho. I'm a project management officer at Politics for Her. Today, we are having our workshop on digital safety for women. I'm really, really happy to have you all here. I will advise you to please display your full name on your account on Zoom for us to send you the certificate. And please stay until the end. And yeah, very happy to have you all here. And Sibongile, if you want to introduce yourself, please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Ariel. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Sibongile Mukapani. I'm a policy specialist at Politics for Her. I'm a human rights lawyer also by profession, and I will be facilitating this session today on digital safety for women. And thank you. I think I'd also like to meet everyone who's here. Maybe you can unmute, or maybe perhaps you can drop in the chat where you're from and what you do. This is nice. I see we have someone from Brazil, Rio. Welcome. Welcome, Shadina.
Wanja Maina has raised her hand. You can unmute yourself, please.
You can unmute, Wanja.
So hi everyone, my name is Wanja. I'm from Nairobi. It's evening now. It's just for 12 minutes past 4 o'clock. And yeah, I'm a law student. I'm currently at the Kenya School of Law, and I am also very interested in policy matters in women's rights and children's rights. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much, Wanja.
Really interesting, Wanja. Thank you for sharing with us. And we have Shanida Sultana, Junior Research Fellow at EYPHR in UK from Pakistan. Wow. A lot of people are from the Global South, but they are like France, UK. A lot of people are from different places and are in different places. That's awesome. Hi everyone, Euphemia said, hi everyone, I am Euphemia from World Vision Kenya, project coordinator. I have a background in gender and development. Wow, very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Hi everyone, I'm a political science student from Slovenia. Super excited to be here. Thanks, Marina. And that's me. I'm from Rio, Brazil, if you don't know yet.
I thought it was interesting. I was about to say, hey, Ariel, does you have a fellow sister in here? Someone to talk some Portuguese with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was you. I missed that.
We should talk, definitely.
I should learn. Portuguese.
So I guess that's it. Wanja, your hand is still raised. Do you want to speak something else?
No. Thank you. I'll push it down.
Wanya's asking if we're supporting the Springboks this weekend. Yes, go Boca, go Boca. What kind of Southerner would I be if I wasn't behind the boys? I'm definitely going to Loftus tomorrow for the game. Very, very excited about that.
That's awesome. Wanja, are we supporting the Springboks this weekend? Yeah, I think you just answered her, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understand you, but yeah.
That we're having a Rugby World Cup, so it's the finals on Saturday.
Oh,
so South Africa is in the finals. We're playing New Zealand, so it's a big thing. It's a big thing here.
oh, okay. Good luck for you.
Thank you. But we don't need it. We're winning.
That's the spirit. So I guess
Thank
we're good to go.
Yes.
Do you want me to share my screen with the
Yes,
presentation?
please. Yes, please.
Okay. Are we good to go?
Yes, we are. Again, thank you, Ariel. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. Very, very grateful that you took time out of your schedules to come to this informative / interactive session where we'll be discussing, the broader view of digital rights, the aspect of online safety for women. Like I said earlier, my name is Sibongile Mokapani. I'm an advocacy specialist at Politics for Her, and I'm also a tech legal enthusiast. So I'm really hoping this session will be very, very interactive. You guys will tell me about your experiences as well, or at least share and comment as we go. If you have a question, you're welcome to drop it in the chat, or you can just raise your hand if you feel like it's an urgent question for me to address before I carry on. So yes, can I have the next slide, please? So our agenda for today, these are the items I was hoping we'd discuss. And so I wanted to talk about women's experience in the digital era. So especially pertaining to like the private and public life, whether it's women in politics or women in journalism, or if you're an activist, a women's activist, a women's rights defender. just advocate or work with a women's rights NGO, then I thought this session would be very, very helpful, at least to engage in this kind of discussion, to talk about how do we work in a safe manner and how do we build resilience in the digital era, and just try to build momentum of all the initiatives that we've been trying to work on, whether it's fighting discrimination against women or violence against women, but particularly in the digital era. And then I thought we could also discuss risks of the digital space. So whether it's on issues of political participation online as individuals or as advocates or activists, and how it affect our freedom of expression or access to information. In particular, maybe we have a lot of information disorders online these days, whether it's gender disinformation or misinformation. So I thought those would be risks that we could discuss, or issues around those risks, and what's our take on it, or at least experiences, or how would we sort of strategize or on approaches on how to combat it. And then I'll be discussing on how we mitigate risks in the digital space. In terms of practices we can do as individuals or as our communities, whether it's as professional lives or our private lives as families or a group of friends. And also I thought maybe we could also look at different tools that are out there for digital safety and resilience for individuals and communities, but in particular for us as women. What is there out there for us? And also, do we feel like is there something that we could do? Then, if I haven't really covered much, I was hoping also we could have a quick Q&A session, or maybe just have discussions about everything that I might have discussed. So that is the agenda for this session. Can I have the next slide, please? So I think a quick background on the entire issue of where digital safety and resilience just comes from. I think just a quick trigger warning, it comes around 2019, 2020, when we had the pandemic. Luckily, all of us have been born by then. So we all have a very, very vivid imagination of how, everything unfolded during that time. So a lot of countries went on lockdowns. So we had to, stay at home. We worked from home, and we had to rely on the internet to do our different, work, or whether it's for access of information on certain things. If you wanted information about what was going on around, safety or CDC guidelines in terms of the different variants that are out there, you go online. That's where you get your information, or you just go online for entertainment purposes, because being logged in and site was very, very boring. And which other space was there for us to interact? Because we were also very social beings. It was online. To find a sense of community with people we know, just to have that social aspect that we're lacking because we're closed indoors. But also, one of the most interesting thing is the pandemic sort of like put into spotlight and highlighted issues that were already there. I might say they were not per se very new issues. They were issues that were ongoing, and it's just that the pandemic just sort of like exacerbated and highlighted them. So one of these things was online gender-based violence. So in 2020, Policy, which is a feminist tech organization in Uganda, did a study on online violence in 5 countries. I think it was in South Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Senegal, and Ethiopia. And it found that at least 1 in 3 women have experienced some form of online violence, which is very interesting because the very same statistic is quite similar to gender-based violence in the real world. That the statistics by the UN is that at least 1 in every 3 women during their lifetime, they would have experienced some kind of violence on the basis of that gender. And so from that, we can conclude that, online gender-based violence is a continuum of gender-based violence from the real world. So it's a continuum, nothing with the same effect, both, it's made with the intention to bring harm. Usually, it has that aspect of using shame or as a form of a control factor. And it's one of those things that actually was brought to the fore by the pandemic. And while we have different types of online gender-based violence, and this is, I'm just giving an overview because I was hoping this session was sort of like a build up from our previous session that we had with Shinwanti on online gender-based violence against women as human rights defenders. And I'll just quickly just do an overview of defining what constitutes online violence. So like different conduct constitutes it, and depending on where you are in the world, certain conduct is criminalized and some conduct that constitutes online violence is not criminalized. So a lot of conduct that we've seen is the image-based violence. So this was constituted usually by like the non-consensual disclosure of intimate images, which a lot of people refer to as a revenge porn. Then we've had fake deeps. Then we have children's sexual abuse content as well. So those are just examples of what would constitute image-based violence. And then we had OGBV has also manifested as online harassment and hate speech, and this one is the most common one. I think all of us as millennials and Gen X, we are very, very active, or at least have some social media presence, whether you're active on the platforms or not. But you do witness, certain conduct where people are being harassed, and there's some, comments being made about certain groups based on their gender or their sex, their sexual orientation, or their gender identity, or how they express their agenda. And what is very interesting is the harassment and hate speech, disproportionately affect women in comparison to men. A lot of studies have showed that women online are disproportionately affected by online gender-based violence in comparison to their male counterparts. And other issues that have been raised with that regard is other social identities also play a role in it, such as your race or your sexual orientation, or how you identify your gender. So it just keeps exacerbating the vulnerability depending on how you identify, also, your religion or your nationality. It has been also other factors that have actually contributed to such harassment and hate speech within these social platforms. And I know, and just to put it out there, even platforms that would consider as professional platforms, such as LinkedIn, they're very, very open with such discussion, and and not very protective for women or just other users in terms of protecting them against such violence and hate speech or harassment. And a lot of this one has been evidenced by this ongoing conflict of Israel and Palestine. And we've also seen how people have reacted to our campaigns as Politics for Her, when we were advocating for humanitarian responses which are gender sensitive, and a lot of people sort of did did not welcome that approach and sort of shunned, the proposition in that we're trying to make everything, pushing our feminist propagandas and whatnot. And it's very, very unfortunate. So another experience that I've also realized, also, you're welcome to share any experience in the chat box. If you have something also, like a story or a personal experience regarding online gender-based violence that you experienced, whether it's in professional life or know someone, or also in a private, the private space. I'm keeping an eye out in the chat box. So I'll also share that with everyone. So going on into doxing and hacking, these are some of the experiences that come with being an internet user, because to some extent the internet gives you some freedom in terms of, what your online persona is. So like you have, some control over who you put yourself out as online, and what you portray and how you want to be perceived by the world. But however, the information that we actually put there, about ourselves, about our friends, our families, our colleagues, sometimes can be weaponized online. And these, it sort of like creates sort of like little breadcrumbs, which are called your digital shadow. So from your names and the people you have, depending on the person who is, intent on getting you, they can sort of collect and collate, information about you and who you are, what you do, where they can get you, and share that with the internet. And a lot of times we've seen this, that it's for perpetual harassment and perpetual, harm, that someone will share someone's details, like your phone number and emails, online, and sharing that you've done this and this. In my country, doxing is very popular for people who owe other people. So you'll borrow, for example, $200 for someone, and then that certain someone doesn't want to repay them back. Then the creditor will put out the person's, details, sometimes including their photograph, or and other information like where they work, like, this person does not want to pay me, they owe me this much amount, and they've ghosted me when they're supposed to pay. And then people would just come in and start calling that person and harassing them, like, pay this person, how dare you, and start putting slurs on the social media, or even going out and reaching out to the employer, to say this person owes the person, that I do something. And to me, also, as a human rights activist, it says that is wrong. It's not just violating someone's privacy, it's violating someone's, dignity. And then some of the experiences that we've also realized is the perpetrator sometimes is not an individual, it's also the state, the government. And this has been evidenced by, internet shutdowns and internet censorship and surveillance. So a lot of shutdowns, whether it's sort of like a blanket shutdown, so this is where there's an entire shutdown of your internet, whether it's from one network or just across the country, or only if it's, the shutdown is for a specific region or area within your country, or sometimes it's just, to throttle the network, connectivity, so the internet is very, very slow. So we've seen that governments also do that in order to try to deter people from participating online, especially when there's, a hot topic going around, and there's, according to them, a perceived threat of, anarchy, or insurgents, according to them. Usually this is evidenced by people wanting to exercise their rightful, right to associate and protest, and they will implement measures to shut down your internet. And I think the most leading countries as of late, which have the highest numbers of internet shutdowns, have to be India and Malaysia in Asia. And in Africa, I think so far it would have to be Ethiopia, because of The conflicts, there's no conflicts going happening there. Then you know, internet censorship sometimes also is very, very similar to internet shutdowns. It's always about the state's control to you know, trying to hinder free flow of information, you know, between the people. So sometimes they will block certain websites because, you know, the saying that knowledge is power. So if you don't know something, then you won't be able to act accordingly. So what do we do? Sounds reasonable to block it to me. I mean, if you're, but also it is not right because it does impede on a lot of fundamental rights that you do have a right to have access to such information. And what you do with that information, honestly, is up to you as an individual. So a lot of countries sometimes block websites, you know, that are contrary to what they may term as their values as a country in terms of religion or culture. So some countries do block a lot of websites on LGBTI rights, or, you know, I know a lot of other, excuse me, other countries have blocked, you know, websites on Islam religion. So, you know, a lot of countries that are very, very pro-Catholic or pro-Christianity, so they have, you know, blocked such websites. And I think also the most common one, even though I feel like we haven't really put a lot of attention to it, is surveillance by the state, especially with regard to women journalists and you know, women politicians, especially if there are women who are not with government. So a lot of their devices are being hacked. There's also a lot of tracking and spyware, you know, and these things are sort of how somehow sort of like contribute to these issues of how we've you know, seen as human rights defenders, especially journalists. There's a lot of cases of, you know, disappearances and torture, and usually it's because the state, and in trying to exercise, you know, its right of national security, somehow loses the balance of letting you know, individuals exercise their right to, you know, freedom of speech or freedom of media, and then they tend to silence these people by torture and making them disappear. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is just an illustration of how the internet works. Because also I realized as people we have a very different understanding of, you know, how the internet works. So this is very, very technical. This is just an overview just to simplify how it works. So usually you have your device which will connect you to your wireless your wireless access point, sorry. And your wireless access point usually connects you to either your router or your modem, which connects you to your ISP, which is your internet service provider, or your mobile network provider. And your mobile provider connects you to the servers of the websites that you're trying to connect. So usually I think a simpler way would be your device needs to connect to a wireless access point, which will connect you to your ISP, which connects you to the servers of the websites that you're trying to connect to. So I just want us to have a sort of like keep this diagram in the back of our heads as we go forward. Can I have the next slide, please? So how do we mitigate these issues that we talked about, you know, the risks? So I think for me, what I've realized is, you know, digital hygiene is very, very important. So what is digital hygiene? I think it's practices that will help keep you safe. Sort of like during, the pandemic, how we kept ourselves safe, wearing masks and washing our hands, sanitizing, keeping, social distancing. So these are also sort of like an outline of what constitutes, good practice that will help you keep you safe and, mitigate the risks online, because we still have the issue of, policies that try to address the issues that I've discussed earlier, or at least legal frameworks, whether it's at the national level or regional level, we're still quite lacking in trying to implement, protection for women, especially at the national level, through legal frameworks. So a quick disclaimer is that, I'll be making examples with a lot of products. I am not, this is not like a, how do I put it? Like professional advice. It's for educational purposes. And, the products that I will be making reference to, I'm not trying to like advertise for them. I'm just giving examples just so you have an idea of where to look or where to start looking in your search when you try to implement all these solutions that we're bringing to you. So I think the first one would be you have to update your systems and, your software and applications on your devices, whether it's your laptop or your phone. Like this is very, very important, because the previous or current version, of if it's a software or an application you're using might have some bugs, or, it also is susceptible to certain threats, right? So if you update it, it helps you to sort of like not be vulnerable, because the update would have would have sorted and, worked out those kinks for the threats or the vulnerability that you have. So also it also helps your device to be more efficient and less vulnerable to threats online. Then we have, you need to update your antivirus for your device. So I use McAfee. A lot of people also that I've worked with, they use Kaspersky or Avast. We're saying it needs to be updated and a current one, because your antivirus is, it's a software like anything. So similarly, it will be susceptible, it will have some bugs or some glitches that need to be worked out. So the newer version, the updated version of it, it's likely to have been updated to overcome such bugs and to be less susceptible and to protect you and your device. And because also the reason, one of the things to keep in mind is that these threats are always evolving. Your malware, whether it's a virus or a Trojan or spyware, they are always sort of like the coronavirus. I'll keep making reference to this because I think it will make more sense if I draw that analogy. It keeps having different variants. Even these, malwares, they keep having different, they keep evolving, having variants. So developers need to also, sort of like work out and develop, solutions that will try to protect you from, the attacks of those evolved threats. And then, another aspect that we need to practice is having, passwords and pins for our devices. And I know a lot of people who don't have it, they think it's more convenient to have access to your device without putting in a password, or especially the older generation. Like my mother doesn't even have a password on the phone. She's like, oh, this thing is taking forever and I just need to read my messages. And a good, what constitutes a good password is having, it should be like a combination of, alphanumeric and character combinations. And by this, I don't mean you must have a 1, 2, 3 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are bad combinations. So 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D. Those are very, very bad combinations because they are easy to guess. So hackers or at least bots that try to like access your accounts, they can attack you and hack your accounts if these are your passwords. So also you can also try having like a different combination of words or a phrase to make a phrase as your password. A typical example would be I love my babies at home. If you're a millennial, we had, you're able to be creative with this because at some point we wouldn't have access to, a QWERTY keyboard, and word limit was a thing. And so we had to use short form. So you can utilize that, it's a skill that you have. Just try to incorporate those short forms into your, phrases. So if I was my password phrase would be I love my babies at home, it would be I love my two. So two wouldn't have to be words, it would be numeric. Babies, I would have to shorten with 2BBS, maybe even caps it. And then at home, it would be at as in the character, and then at home. And I believe that would be the easiest, sort of way to have it, especially if you have like babies at home. So just something more relatable to you, something very specific to you, something that you would easily remember, but also the next person is unlikely, to remember. Then maybe, like considering a password messenger is like password manager is also very, very ideal. I know a lot of people have different opinions when it comes to it, depending on what you use. So we have like a lot of different password managers, like LastPass or Google Password Manager or your Bing Password Manager, depending on which a browser you use. You could use those ones, or you can use the LastPass. But again, do your research in terms of the susceptibility of these systems, because I remember some previous years one of these platforms that offer the services of password messengers was attacked. And if there's been such an incident, it does sort of like tell you to in terms of the safety of your passwords and how you maybe would want to consider the pros and cons of what it offers in comparison to the other one, and if this one is a better one in terms of what you're looking for, or the other one would be better because of what it offers. Can I have the next slide, please? Also, you're welcome to post questions in the chat box if there are any, or you can raise your hand so that I do not, sort of like rush through the thing without, letting you have ask, important questions. I just wanted to do a quick reminder on that. I think other practice we can do is being cautious, regarding links that we have access to, whether it's a link that someone has sent you or a link you found on a certain resource and you want to access it to find more information. So we have different hypertext transfer protocols, right? So which is the HTTP, and then there's a HTTPS. So these things, they're usually like sort of like they're usually at the beginning of your URL, and the HTTP usually is the not so secure one, and the HTTPS is the most secure one. It's usually indicated by a small cute little lock in front of the URL and then the HTTPS. So the S there for the hypertext transfer protocol, the S is for hypertext transfer protocol secure. So it sort of like encrypts your data while you're browsing online, so you're not so susceptible to being hacked. So you need to be careful that if you're following a certain link or trying to access it, make sure it has HTTPS on it, right? And another thing I always say is, if you can, if it's a shortened URL, try to expand it and see it. I know sometimes it's usually like followed by a sequence of a lot of numbers, but sometimes you can tell the route the URL is going to take, even though it doesn't have that a lot of sequence of numbers, so it would help you. Yes, Harry, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to ask that I usually use the Opera GX. I don't know if you are familiar with it. The browser.
The browser, yes.
Yes, and people say it's more safe, but I don't really know if it is. I really like it, but I don't know if it's safer than, I don't know, the Google Chrome or the Edge Microsoft browser. So that's a question I have actually. Do you think it's more safe? Because they have those things that you can turn on the VPN thing, you can turn off, turn on, or you have a lot of tools. They give you the options for navigate more safely or more anonymously. And I don't know if this is like safer than the other ones, or it's just like propaganda.
No, I definitely get your question. I think there is no direct answer. There's no yes, it's the safest, and no, it's not the safest. It, like I said, it depends on what you're looking for as a person and what the product is offering. So if your Opera X is offering you a VPN and a lot of anonymity online, and it's giving you a lot of things just keep you safe, then it would be a yes. But also, if there's another product that is offering you that and more, or at least it's about weighing the pros and cons. What are the pros here? What are the cons here? For example, a lot of people I know are very, they have the reservations when it comes to using Google products because they're free, because the saying that nothing is for free. So there's questions around it, right? Is there a possibility that they're selling my data to marketers? And if that is a con for you, then it would mean your browser is a good option because maybe they don't, sell your data, or at least are transparent about how they use your data and how they process it and how they discard it. So like I'm saying, it depends on what you're looking for as an individual and what the product offers. So you sort of like balance out to see which one will work best for you. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you have. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Then we also have images. Images sometimes do sometimes sort of like encapsulate like these threads. So you'll click on an image and that's how your device gets attacked. And I know Google in Gmail gives you this option to turn off images so that you're not susceptible to this. So if you want to see an image, you'd have to click on it, right? Or if it has detected that there's a likelihood of this image being instead, it will ask you, are you sure you want to open this image? Then you have websites, just like it's similar to the last point I was discussing from the previous slide that you don't just click on, you need to be cautious on these things. Even if it's from trusted contacts. I don't know about you guys, but literally in my family groups, some auntie or uncle will randomly send a link for you to click on the link if you want to win an iPhone 15, or that if you want to win a grocery with your local supermarket for like $500, then you must share the thing with all your WhatsApp contacts. It's just sometimes it's clickbait, but sometimes also it's threats. It encapsulates some sort of threat to you, some sort of malware or virus that is going to attack your device. So I think another issue that we're not so aware of is being conscious about what we share online, especially personal information. This one is very, very tricky because it's as a younger generation, our whole life sort of like revolved around digital presence, whether it's work and whatnot. So your work would require you to share your name and what you do, and if you're if you're into e-commerce, you'd have to share your contacts for your customers to have some sort of contact point with you. And even where you're an activist and you're trying to exercise some form of anonymity online, like if you were to use like a pseudonym or a combination of a pseudonym and your real name, it somehow still leaves you vulnerable, or at least at risk for harm, depending on the person who is trying to, the intention of harming you. So they can collect these breadcrumbs from from the data that you've shared, right? For example, if I'm Zwongile on my page, but I'm not using my real last name, but I have certain people from my high school or family that I interact with. You can sort of follow those breadcrumbs to see the people that I frequently interact with and what my comments and interaction is. So you can sort of identify my relationship with those people, and information from those people can also sort of give you further information about me. Let's say I commented on someone's old picture, and my comment sort of hints on how we went to high school together. So I went to high school with this person. So if perhaps someone who's in my family also comment on this thing and I refer to them as this, so then you can also sort of maybe try to conclude perhaps maybe this person's last name could be this, or just it's a thing about following crumbs because of the information that is put out there. And I always say that it's very tricky. I will say it's very tricky because we do need online presence for our work, and also because it's sort of become a social culture for us. And even for just we need to be very wary when it comes to real-time location sharing, especially in where there's hostilities. If you need to, it's a matter of trying to like I said, balancing the risks. Is this more beneficial if I go live now than if I was to share this later? What are the risks involved? Will it get me into trouble with the government? And yes, I know this to some extent does contribute to self-censorship, but self-preservation. I always say, I think the reason I was doing this is because self-preservation. I mean, we all have been doing our work and we're trying to advocate, for women to be safe and whatnot. But what is most, and for women to have, to be able to exercise their basic rights, and that's what we've been fighting for the entire time. But also self-preservation is the most important thing, because if you're not alive, you won't be able to carry on the good work that you're doing. So try to assess the the risks in terms of how you share your personal information, and like location where you are, even for leisurely things, like you want to tell people that you visit a certain tourist attraction, so that is something that is important for someone to also consider. And also, pertaining to this thing, you need to self-dox. So self-dox is more or less the same like doxing, but not really. So self-doxing is you going online and trying to find information about yourself, what's out there. So it sort of puts you in the seat of someone who would be a threat, and they're trying to find out information about you. What kind of information would they find about you? So usually we advise, if you want to self-dox, you don't use the same browser that you use. Use a very different browser from the one you usually use. Then type in your name, reverse search images, your popular images, images that you use, like your profile pictures on your social media, whether it's your ex, and then just see where these photographs would pop up. And it's not common, but sometimes people actually are quite surprised to find, certain information that's out there about them, or where that pictures are being used. Because we also have, we live in an era of AI, where now, deep fakes are a thing. So you would be surprised if you find yourself on a body that is not yours on a certain website. So just self-doxing, just to see what is out there for you, might be occasionally, if you do, these searches would be very helpful in trying to keep you safe. Also, we have a thing about, our apps. How many of us know how many apps do you have on our phone? Honestly, I don't know how many apps I have on my phone, and I think I can tell you maybe like my top 3 used apps. But I will say the other apps are not, are not as active as the other ones. So just go through your phone, look at the apps that you usually use, and apps that you don't use, delete. And you might come across apps that you don't know when you downloaded them. That could be a possible indicator that your phone might have been invaded somehow. So also delete those things. Also, when you download these apps, you need to be very, very cautious about the permissions you allow, when they're requested about these apps. Because sometimes you're downloading a calculator, just a simple basic calculator, and for you to use it, to ask permission to use your camera or your microphone, why? So that should be a red flag. Why is the basic calculator requesting to use my camera and to use my microphone? So it's sort of like perhaps a possible indicator that there's something malicious going on here. So be wary. I know this is coming off as being a little exaggerated, and it might make you scared about these things, but also I feel like this is the reality of the things that we're experiencing. So at least if there's awareness, and you're able to protect yourself better because you have an understanding of how to make your choices. I think another good practice for your device, just switching off your laptop once a week or every 2 weeks. And this is just generally for your laptop to update, its softwares, especially if you have, a continued, connection to the internet. And then just be wary in terms of Wi-Fi. we love free Wi-Fi. My side of the world, we very, very much love free Wi-Fi. And I remember when I was a student, would actually go back to campus from our residential area just so we can go access like free Wi-Fi. And something free is not always good, because usually these are spaces where you get vulnerable to these attacks, to hackers, because you don't know the people who are also on these networks with you and what the intention is. So a lot of times, a lot of experts will tell you, if you're on like free, on public Wi-Fi, the airport or at the malls, do not do your online banking. Do not. That is how people's information gets hacked, and that is how people's bank accounts get wiped out. We literally within few seconds, because they got vulnerable there. The people who were also connecting, they saw the activity and were able to steal that information and then take that funds. I think another one would have to be clearing your cookies. Clearing your cookies and browsing history on your devices is very, very important. And not because you're a lawyer and you're constantly, Googling Latin maxims, or you're working in the social justice, and before while you're typing your report, you're constantly typing the definition and difference between objectives, outcomes, and indicators for your narrative report. But what cookies are, they're like little like text files. They have small data in them, right? So the data within these like text files, it can be used to like track and monitor the sites you visited, right? And usually they say it's to help navigate the sites, the site you're on, and to enhance experience. But for privacy reasons, some people just may not feel comfortable with, that sort of information or about the activity, being shared. So I know a lot of countries, especially in the Western countries, they have laws to that effect that websites, they must give you the option to choose if you want to subscribe to your cookies being used for marketing purposes, for statistical reasons, or if it's solely for that like necessary cookies for you to be able to navigate the site better. Can I have the next slide, please? Then the next part of this session is the tools that we have out there. What tools are out there for digital safety and resilience? So encrypting our files on our devices is very, very important, because encryption just sort of like entails a code that scrambles the data on your files and descrambles the text when it arrives to the intended recipient, so that it's not hacked by any person who tries to intercept it, or the person who the file or the image or whatever it is not intended for. So if you're like an Android user, you can use BitLocker. It always comes inbuilt with a lot of devices. Then if you're an Apple user, a lot of iOS like computers use file vaults, and if you're using Link's device, Decrypt. For email, I use Mailvelope. So I don't know if you guys have other solutions, digital solutions that you use for that. And I think another issue in terms of communication we have this discussion going on about, which, communication, instant messaging app is the best. And for us people who are in the social justice sector, a lot of us use Signal app for security reasons. And one of it is that the difference between Signal and WhatsApp is that we know the coding for Signal app because it's open source, right? And the company that runs it is non-profit, unlike WhatsApp and Facebook messengers, which is under Meta, which is a for-profit company. And but they're very, very much similar because we're made by this. They were made by the same protocol, by the same coding company, which is called Open Whisper Systems. And I think that is sort of the comfort that sort of like gives Signal an upper hand, that it's open source, so we can see how it was made, and also we know what they're doing there. So in terms of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, there isn't much transparency because we've had a lot of questions around that transparency and policies in terms of the end-to-end encryption and how they use our data, and sell it to marketers. And just to quickly rush, because I was hoping that we could have an interaction. You can use the Onion router. So it's just basically a browser that keeps anonymous online, and it helps you not to be like tracked online. So you can try that for a browser as well. So Hariel, maybe you can use the Onion router. See if it works better. Maybe that's something to consider in comparison to your Opera. Then using virtual private networks, I use Siphon Pro for my phone. Other people use Proton. I use McAfee on my laptop because it's an antivirus and also offers VPN and other services. So it's very, very ideal for my laptop. So in terms of internet censorship and internet shutdowns, we still do not have solid tools except circumvention tools such as VPNs, to circumvent that to some extent, especially internet censorship and blocking. But before you use a circumvention tool like a VPN, check your national laws. Some countries have started implementing laws that actually prohibit having, circumvention tools like a VPN. So be safe. Look at your national laws and see if it's criminal, conduct to have a VPN on your devices. But I think if you're interested in, knowing activity about, internet censorship and, blocking websites in your country or region, you can use the UNI app, which is the Open Observatory Network Interference. So it's sort of like a tool. It reads your network activity. You can read. It's very, very technical, but it gets easy to use with time. So they also have, if you were to check, I forget what's this website, but they do have short courses on how to use these tools such as Uni and IOTA, and the internet calculator is an African one. It's very, very new. So we're still yet trying to learn how it works, and also if there's any kinks to it. And I think that is all in terms of the tools. So I would like to start taking questions or comments, anything.
Hello, guys. Anyone has any question for Simogile? I must tell you that I loved your your presentation, because there are so many things that we do without thinking about how we are navigating on the internet. Like I have the McAfee on my computer too, but I don't take any measures to to protect myself from anything. So it was very insightful. Thank you very much, Simbungile.
Well, thank you, Ariel. I think another thing to consider about digital safety and resilience, that it's not an individual thing, right? Because your device is not solely for personal use, it's also for communication with extended communities, whether it's your family or your colleagues at work. And if your device is vulnerable to threat, then it means the threat can also somehow have an impact on your extended communities. So keeping yourself safe is also keeping your other community safe, is keeping your family safe. Because for example, today, if you were to lose your phone, right? Yes, first reaction is to lose your head because, oh my gosh, my phone, it's expensive and I cannot afford to go buy one literally in a few hours. Also the information on it, right? The information, whether it's backed up on the cloud, but also the information on it is very, very important to you. But also there's also sensitive information on there, depending on your standard of what you find as whether it's the chat with your best friends. Because honestly, I'm just one of those people that my chat with my best friend, it's nothing bad or malicious, but it has a lot of sensitive information about our lives, and I wouldn't be happy if that information fell into their hands without my consent even. So even if right now, if I lost my laptop and it doesn't have like a password or a pin to it, it does leave you guys at Politics for Has, my colleagues, very, very vulnerable. And it's unfortunate because also we're spread up across the world. So it means whatever, solution we might even try to get, it would be a little too late because it would have impacted a lot of us across the globe, and someone cannot access something, but someone who's in Morocco can help someone who's in Lebanon because maybe somehow that device was not attacked, but they have the information, but because of my recklessness or lack of foresight has led to that calamity. So it's you also thinking about those things. I know someone had said it's very far-fetched. Yes, it is in some instances, but it's not an impossibility, and it's always nice to prepare. It's always nice to prepare and thinking about these risks in the back of your head as you go forward about what could possibly wrong and you mitigating it instead of reacting when the thing has happened, because reaction sometimes is not as effective as being proactive about something. So Shanita says, my presentation was full of information and learning. She enjoyed it a lot and learned a lot. Thank you so much, Shanita.
Thank you, Shanita. We're happy you liked it and you learned it a lot, because that's our goal, right?
It is. But I feel like there is no further questions. So you can go on the next slide, please, Ariel. So these are, if you have any questions that might pop up later, you're free to contact me. This is my email, it's wengilemukapani@gmail.com. On LinkedIn, I am Advocate Sibongile Mukapani. You can also reach out on me there.
Mwangala said something. I was unable to comment earlier, but I wanted to say I have suffered online abuse. I was arrested for organizing a women's march in March this year. My team and I were accused of having organized a gay rights march, so we were arrested and the police released our information. I was the only one whose picture they posted, and I faced threats and bullying for nearly 2 weeks. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You
So
have
sorry,
to
Mandala.
Bella.
Like, yes, yes. Like this is actually one of the lived, realities of what activists go through, and weaponizing the internet for people who are just trying to do good. And it is very unfortunate that there is no protection offered to us. If anything, what they're offering is further victimization and other one you've been arrested. So your right to association and to protest is already being violated, and then you're being accused of something which is also not true. That's also some sort of like misinformation to a certain extent. And then your dignity as a person, it's also violated, and your integrity, your picture being posted online, and people saying those slurs. And it's not even a matter of it being harsh, but it does affect you psychologically and emotionally and your relations with people close to you. All right, because now you wear like I said, it just imposes shame on you, and it burdens you with this shame, even though you should not be ashamed about this. And this is something that needs to be addressed, especially at the national level in terms of legal frameworks. We need such conduct to be, criminalized. You cannot just post someone's pictures and, assert certain things, which you are alleging you don't even know if they're true, whether you are, like a security institution or not. What happened to, the presumption of innocence? Until proven guilty, you're not going to do that. And also, there's also a need, for people to be for reparations for people, suffering this harm. But also, it should attract, I agree, it should attract criminal liability, because right now, a lot of times people are going the civil route, and trying to get redressed through the courts in civil suit, and suing for emotional and emotional injury. And these things take a while. Even the monetary compensation that the person pays sometimes is not enough, because also one thing I know is the internet does not forget. So if your face is put out there with such information, it's very, very hard also to get it offline. Fortunately, other progressive countries have the right to erasure. So you can actually contact such platforms and make a request for such information to be erased about you. So that is a plus. But for us, countries that are lagging behind, least developed countries, and third world countries, because we're not there yet. So it is a problem that it also poses re-victimization whenever this resurfaces, right? Because this does not guarantee that because it went out, because also these things fade out because there's something, another drama following it, so people forget about this one and focus on this one. But if someone remembers, they can go back and dig it up, and it further like victimizes you, and it's just an ongoing cycle of continuous harm to your psychological being and just general welfare, and just cannot fully carry on with life.
Yeah, thank you, Simongile. This was impactful. Wanja, thank you so much, Simbongile and Politics for Her. This has been so transformative. I love that embracing online safety has the effect of also protecting all the people I love and care about. I loved hearing about so many search engines and all that other stuff that helps you. So cool. Thank you, Wanja, for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Wanda. Thank you. Thank you for saying this, but also I think this session is sort of also you know, sort of like a call or a challenge, or us charging you to start having these conversations in your communities, start having these conversations in different platforms on your with your families, you know, because a lot of these things come from accepted social norms. And if we have these conversations, it does sensitize people to, you know, the harms that these things cause. Because one thing I've realized is people become aware of the extent of the harm of something if it actually affects someone close to them. And if it's someone who's remote, it doesn't really click as much, or at least it doesn't really move them to that extent. I don't know why we like empathy like that. We can sympathize, but we like empathy if it's not someone that is so close to us. So I think maybe just start having these conversations, right? How do we go forward with this, right? How, what are our leaders doing about it, right? What should they be doing about it? What is justice in your context? It's, you know, the civil approach to getting, you know, compensated for your emotional, you know, injury enough according to your social standards. Is that okay? Do you want criminal? Do you want this sort of conduct to you know, due to like attract criminal liability? I'm definitely for criminal liability, um, especially for us in the least developed countries, because if you're to sue someone, sometimes that person who's been saying nasty things about you are very destitute, and now they can't even pay you that much amount. It's just a debt on paper that they owe you, but they're not going to dispense it. And I think also just trying to, you know, look into these community guidelines that these platforms have and see how they implement them. Let's have conversations about that. Are those standards enough? Is the implementation approach, you know, standard? Is it non-discriminatory? You know, because they do have these community standards, but how effective are they? You can block someone, but someone who is not on your block list has access to that and they can further victimize you. So is it effective? To me, not so much. So what do we do about that? How do we address, you know, the effectiveness of these community standards? And, you know, like I'm saying, the indiscriminate application of them. Like, I'll just make reference again to this Israel and, you know, Palestine conflict. We've seen how there's content censorship depending on where your content is leaning. Should they be playing, you know, sites like that? Should it be biased, especially if your platform, which, you know, advocates for freedom of expression? I feel like maybe you should try to be neutral in those things, right? And not so blatant and trying to censor content about, you know, issues that are very, very, you know, pertinent for humanity. Lives are being lost. That's a fact, and something should be done about it. We're not going to turn our faces away because of certain values or affiliations, but it's a matter of humanity. Where is your heart? Where is your empathy for your fellow, you know, kinsmen? That children are dying, women are dying, men are dying. Do something about it. Do something about it. And I think that is all from me. Over to you, Harold.
Okay. If somebody has anything to add, please say it in the chat or please raise your hand. Just to complement what you said, we are not alone. I think that all struggles, they get more easy when we have a collective of people, just to say people, or support. So affiliate yourself in any collective that you can express yourself and that you can act without putting yourself at risk. And I think that's it. And I think nobody has any questions. I'm gonna finish the session. It was amazing. Thank you a lot, Sibongile. It was very, very insightful, a lot of information. Don't worry, the participants, I'm gonna send you the link for the recording, so you'll be able to see it again, and you can contact Simbongile or Politics for Her anytime. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.